Hi, I'm Sherry, and this is my first ever Q&A video. I am so excited for the chance to chat and answer some of your questions. In fact, I have been keeping track of your questions ever since I started this channel 10 months ago. So if you have ever posted a question in the comment section of any of my videos about me personally, about my retail booth, about my creative process, or about this YouTube channel, you are going to hear the answer today. So grab a cup of tea and let's get started. First of all, my name, Sherry, is spelled S-H-E-R-R-Y, like the sherry in the 1963 Four Seasons song, which is likely where my parents came up with the name. I grew up in a small town in southern Illinois called Olney. And although we weren't poor, we certainly weren't rich either. And my parents were very frugal and not at all wasteful. And so I was very much influenced by that as a child. I have been married for 34 years to my husband, Rick, and we have two grown boys in their 20s, Nick and Spencer. They rent a house together and they live about 10 minutes from here, so I'm very lucky that I get to see them a lot. I get asked a lot if I have an art degree, and I do not. In fact, I went to college to become an English teacher. And I taught English for, I hate to say it, but 31 years. Yeah, that's a long time. I have two young viewers named Noah and Caleb who wanted to know if, when I was a teacher, if I taught my students to craft. And although I wouldn't say that I taught them to craft, I certainly did incorporate a lot of projects into things that we were studying. For example, I remember once when we were reading the novel Lord of the Flies, I put students in groups, and each group had to construct their own shelter using popsicle sticks. So I did a lot of little things like that as a teacher. I get a lot of questions about my house. It was built in 1962, and we've lived here for 8 years. So this is not the house that my boys grew up in. In fact, this is the third house that my husband and I have owned. Now I want to answer your questions about my creative process. And the number one question, without a doubt, is how do I come up with ideas? Or where does my inspiration come from? And that is a really hard question to answer because I think the answer is everywhere, but I know that's not what you want to hear. And so I'm going to try to be more specific about how I get ideas. So number one, I have always enjoyed looking at decorating magazines and books. So that's one source of inspiration. Of course, I enjoy looking at Pinterest, and if you want to see what I have saved to my Pinterest boards, you can just search for Canterbury Cottage and see what I'm looking at if that interests you at all. Shopping is a great source of inspiration, and it really does not matter what kind of store it is. Obviously, retail stores like Home Goods and Kirkland's and Hobby Lobby are great inspiration, but I'm also very inspired shopping at thrift stores, antique stores, furniture stores, really any kind of store at all. But I would have to say that probably the greatest inspiration when upcycling thrifted items comes from the item itself. And I think the trick is to focus on what that object could be rather than what that object is. So let's say you're at the thrift store and you see an interesting something, let's say a flour sifter. I would suggest that even though you know that's a flour sifter, pretend in your mind that you don't know what it is. And then look at it and think, what could that interesting little object be? And I bet that if you start thinking like that you will start coming up with more ideas. How and when did I start crafting? Well, I think that I have always crafted. I can remember as a little girl that when I played Barbies, basically all it consisted of was me making their home and decorating their home and making furniture and decor items for the Barbie home. And once I had it all decorated, then I was done playing with my Barbies that day. I vividly remember making a Barbie-sized record player out of a small cardboard jewelry box. It had a little turntable and a record and an arm that would swing over to play the record. Yeah, I was very proud of myself. I thought that I was incredibly clever to have created a record player for my Barbie. I also learned how to use a sewing machine when I was in grade school. My mom was a very good seamstress and made clothing all of the time. The main difference between my mom and I is that she loved to follow a pattern and I did not. I learned how to follow a pattern, but I never liked to, and I still don't like to follow a pattern. Instead, I just like to cut material and just wing it. And so sometimes when I made clothing when I was younger, it didn't always turn out so good. So as an adult, mostly my sewing is limited to things that I want to make to use around my own home. When my husband and I were first married, we were both teachers, and we did not have any extra money to spend on home decor. So if there was something that I wanted for our home, I had to figure out how to do it or how to make it. Otherwise, I just went without. And so those early lean years certainly promoted my creative spirit. How did I learn to use power tools? Well, I think I mostly learned from watching HGTV shows. I was pretty afraid of saws, like many of you, when I first started. And my first saw was a jigsaw, which actually has a very skinny little blade, so it was not so threatening. And then once I was accustomed to that, I think I moved on to a miter saw, which makes straight cuts. So I could always make sure that I had my fingers out of the way. And then eventually I moved up to a circular saw. And then recently my husband surprised me by buying me my own table saw. So little by little I taught myself, and little by little I became accustomed to bigger, scarier tools. So if I can do it, you can too. Okay, let's talk about one of my favorite things, thrift store shopping. How often do I go to the thrift stores? I go to probably 2 different thrift stores in my area at least once a week. Do I make a list with projects in mind, or do I just pick up random items? Well, I do both things. So if I am planning a video and I know that I'm going to need some things that I don't currently have in my stash, then I will take a list so that I don't forget to keep an eye out for those particular things. But most of the time when I go to the thrift store, I am just looking around for things that speak to me. things that I could use either in my own home or something that I could upcycle and sell in my retail booth. What do I look for at the thrift store? Well, actually, I did a video several months ago where I talked about the best things to buy at thrift stores. So I'll be sure to link that in the description box below. But to answer the question, I look for quality items, real wood furniture, real metal home decor like brass or silver, vintage china, vintage glassware. I feel like those are the items that will stand the test of time and are always money well spent. Do I plan out projects for my videos or do I just ad lib? Okay, well, I don't ad lib, not very much anyway. So I come up with the idea for the video first. So for example, I did a video on how many things can I make from the parts of one chair. So once I come up with that topic, then I begin brainstorming projects that fit that topic. And at a bare minimum, I try to come up with at least 10 projects, hopefully more. So once I come up with 10 or 15 projects, then I start filming. And while I am filming and making those projects, I usually come up with 2 or 3 more ideas, which I may add on, or I may delete some of the other projects that I think are not as good as my new ideas. On the other hand, projects don't always go the way that you think they're going to go. And so there may be a lot of ad-libbing during the process because things aren't working out the way that I originally thought that they would. So there is some spontaneity in the process, but not so much at the beginning, if that makes sense. What is my favorite DIY project and what is my biggest flop? Well, I think one of my favorite DIY projects is the china cabinet that I created out of an old entertainment center that I featured in my second ever YouTube video. Unfortunately, the video itself was a huge flop because the audio was corrupted during the download process, and I did not preview it before I uploaded it and published it onto YouTube. And so I did not know that the sound was all messed up until it was too late for me to do anything about it. So that was a very hard lesson to learn, but I guess it was a good thing that at that time almost no one was watching my channel. In fact, I'm going to include a little clip right here to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, how did I do? Here's the before. Big, green, dated entertainment center. After, blue and white, elegant, china hutch. Thanks for watching. It means so much to me. As of right now, I have 33 subscribers, which blows my mind. Now I want to tell you about my favorite DIY home project. When we bought this house 8 years ago, it needed some serious updating. Not only was there wallpaper in every single room and hallway, but there was also a circa 1962 peach bathroom. And when I say peach, I mean peach tub, peach sink, peach tile on the floor, peach tile on the countertop, peach tile on the walls, even peach tile on the ceiling above the tub. It was the first thing that my husband and I were going to have remodeled. But what we didn't realize is that in the 60s, they put wire mesh and cement behind bathroom tile. Those bathrooms were built to last, and it was going to be incredibly expensive to remodel that bathroom. Basically, they were going to have to demolish it and rebuild it. And we just could not bring ourselves to spend that kind of money. And so we tolerated it. So at the start of the pandemic, I decided to see what I could do with that bathroom using a very limited budget. And so after a couple weeks of very hard work, I had what seemed to me to be a completely new bathroom. And I spent under $1,000. And most of that money was for the vanity. And so redoing that bathroom has certainly built up my confidence in my DIY skills. That is not to say that I have not had my share of failures. In fact, in next week's video, I am going to share a couple of projects that I consider my biggest flops of 2021. So if you want to see that, please tune back in next Tuesday. Okay, let's talk about my retail booth for a minute. So while I was still teaching, I came up with the idea that when I retired, that I would like to open up a little booth in a consignment store selling upcycled home decor. And so in April of 2018, I opened my booth and I called it Canterbury Cottage. And the name was a nod to my love of English country cottage decor, and it also paid homage to my years as an English teacher by referencing Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, which was a piece of literature that I taught for many years. So I really didn't know what to expect, but I will say it has been a lot of fun. Having a booth is a great creative outlet. It is a great excuse to go to the thrift store and spend money. It is a great way to meet other creative people. I have made some wonderful friends with other vendors who have booths in the same store. As much fun as having a booth is, it is a lot of work too. I think to be successful that you need to restock and refresh your booth at least once a week. And if you're selling home decor like me, you need to have a variety of furniture in your booth at all times. One of the main reasons that I started my YouTube channel is because running my booth was becoming less enjoyable and less creative. Instead of being able to make 10 or 20 different things, I needed to make 10 or 20 of the same thing to keep my booth well stocked. And although I enjoy refinishing and painting furniture, it was beginning to feel like a chore because as soon as a piece of furniture sold from my booth, I felt pressure to get another piece over there as soon as possible. Okay, let's talk about YouTube. One of the questions I received was, what do I wish I had known about YouTube before I started my channel? And the answer to that is very easy. I wish I had known how much time it was going to take. Which leads to another question, which is why don't I do 2 videos a week? And it is because I don't have time. I guess I am just a very slow worker. I know there are a lot of YouTubers out there that release 2 or more videos a week, and I don't know how they do it. They are impressive, but unfortunately, that just probably is never going to happen for me. Let me tell you what a typical week is like. I'm going to start with Tuesday morning because that is when my weekly video is released. So as soon as I get up on Tuesday morning, I start reading and answering your comments. And you guys are so very, very sweet. Honestly, just so sweet Tuesday morning is my absolute favorite time of the week. So by Tuesday afternoon, I am probably heading off to the thrift store. I may know exactly what next week's video is going to be about, and I am looking for specific things. Or I may still not have the video clearly defined in my head, and I may actually be looking for inspiration. So then on Wednesday, I may head off to the thrift stores again, or if I feel like I am prepared and I have all the supplies I need, then I will begin crafting and filming the crafting process. On Thursday, I absolutely have to start filming the crafting if I have not started it on Wednesday. So I will spend the majority of Thursday filming myself doing crafts. I do exactly the same thing on Friday. And then on Saturday, I may be finishing up a few crafts, or I may be ready to start editing the video. And the editing process takes me about 8 to 10 hours. Yeah, so the editing day, that is my least favorite day of the week by far. So then on Sunday, I will do the voiceover and I will shoot the final shots of the projects. Now, many YouTubers do the voiceover while they are doing the editing process. And I'm going to try to do that, but I really struggle with my voiceovers. Many of you have complained that I sound like a robot, and I don't know why. I don't write out a script. I'm not reading. I don't know why I sound so mechanical and unhuman, but I'm really going to work on it in 2022, and hopefully when I do the Q&A at the end of the next year, hopefully I will feel a lot better about the voiceover process. So then on Monday, I may be finishing up the voiceover, and then I am uploading the video to YouTube. And then there are several things that you have to do after the video is uploaded to YouTube. For example, you need to write out the description that appears in the description box, and you need to include all of your links for the products and the images that you have used in that video. So if I'm lucky, I might be done by noon on Monday. But more often than not, I am finishing up the final details of that week's video at about 4 or 5 o'clock on Monday afternoon. That is what a typical YouTube week is like, at least for me. Another thing I wish I had known about YouTube is how alone you can feel at times. Large YouTube channels have entire staffs creating videos. But when you are a small channel like me, it's just you doing everything. And sometimes I really wish that I had coworkers to talk to. And so one of the nicest things that has happened in the last couple of months is doing a collaboration with Teresa of Our Green Acres and Julie of Julie's Designs and Signs. After our collaboration was over, we continued to message each other several times a week. And so it's very nice to have friends who understand the YouTube experience and aren't afraid to tell you the truth. I can bounce ideas off of them, and I know that they will tell me, yes, that's a great idea, go with that, or maybe you need to rethink that, Sherry, because that idea just sucks. Now, honestly, they've never said that an idea sucks because they're much too polite. But it is good to have friends that will tell you the truth and help you along your journey. Before I sign off, there is a very special person that I would like to thank, and that is my husband, Rick. I asked him to make an appearance in this video, but he is a very private person, and I respect that. And I know that it is not easy being married to a YouTuber. I also know that I would not be where I am today without all of your love and support. So thank you. I love you. We have all been through some trying times these last few years, and I hope that my videos have lifted your spirits in some small way. I realize how incredibly lucky and blessed I am to be able to do something that I love so very much, and that is to make videos for you. Please know that I do not take that for granted for 1 second. Thank you so very much for supporting my channel, for watching my videos, for leaving me such kind and thoughtful comments. While I've been sitting here filming this video, it has been snowing outside my window, our very first snow of the year. Thank you so much for watching today. Hope to see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye for now.